Absalom stood by the gate day after day. Absalom was King David's son, and the gate was where people came to the king with their disputes or grievances to receive judgment in lawsuits. Absalom was not the king, but he wanted to be the king. So when someone came to the king for a decision, Absalom would engage them, listening to their problems and their concerns, and say, "Oh, that I were made a judge in the land, and everyone who has any suit or cause would come to me. Then I would give him justice." In this and other ways, Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. Of course, his musings, "Oh, that I were made a judge in the land," were effectively a rebuke of his father David's kingship. He might as well have been saying, "Oh, that I were made king, then I would solve your problems." Absalom sought to take his father's throne, and eventually, he did take it temporarily. David wished to avoid bloodshed, so he temporarily left the palace, and only through much hardship gained it back. In some ways, this mirrors the cosmic conflict theme that runs throughout Scripture. God is the one and only true king, but Satan, an angel who selfishly rebelled against God in an attempt to take God's throne for himself, continuously slanders God and his government in an attempt to win the hearts and minds of creatures. Ezekiel chapter 28 tells a bit about the fall of this angel who became known as Satan, describing him as holding a very high place as the anointed cherub who covers. That is, a covering cherub in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, near to the very throne of God. Twice, Ezekiel 28 describes him as perfect, the second time specifying, "You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you." God made him perfect, but he rebelled. He sinned by turning inward in pride. His heart was lifted up because of his beauty, and he corrupted his wisdom. That is how evil originated. Isaiah 14 likewise describes Satan's attempt to exalt himself above God, saying, "I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, and I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." Like Absalom in his jealousy against God, Ezekiel 28 further explains that Satan became filled with violence by the abundance of his trading. And that word translated trading there derives from a Hebrew word that means slander. So he was going around and slandering God in heaven, sowing seeds of discord, much like Absalom did against his father David. And later, Satan did the same thing in the Garden of Eden, maliciously slandering and defaming God's character by depicting God as a self-serving liar in order to foster his rebellion. Scripture is filled with this story of this great conflict, a cosmic conflict between God's kingdom of light and the kingdom of darkness, which consists of angels who join Satan in rebelling against God and his government. Accordingly, in a single sentence, Jesus answers the question of why there is evil in God's good world. He says, "An enemy has done this." But how could there be any such conflict in the first place? In other words, how could there be any conflict between the all-powerful God and a mere creature such as the devil? Ever since my son was a little child, I have loved playing with him. I fondly remember pretending to arm wrestle with him when he was only about 5 years old. I say pretending because while he was trying as hard as he could to slam my arm to the ground and win the contest, I was hardly trying at all. Why? If I used all my effort, there could be no contest at all. Even more so, how could anyone be in a conflict against the all-powerful God? Could a mere creature, such as the devil or anyone else, actually contest God? Not if the conflict is one of sheer power. If God exercised all his power, there would be no contest. The cosmic conflict cannot be one of sheer power then. If the conflict was one of sheer power, God could just overpower them. If there is a conflict between God and Satan, or any other creature then, it must not be a conflict of sheer power. It must be a conflict of another kind. In fact, as Scripture portrays it, this is not a conflict of sheer power, but is a conflict primarily over character, caused by the devil's slanderous allegations against God. A conflict over who will be trusted and what will be believed about God's character, in which the enemy slanders God's character as his strategy to usurp God's rule and the worship that belongs to God alone. But how can one settle a conflict over character? If people are allowed freedom to think for themselves, a conflict over character cannot be settled by sheer power. Imagine a governor accused of corruption. He was completely innocent, but accusations had flown, and many of his constituents did not know who to believe. How could he clear his name? Let me ask you a question. How much power would that governor need to exercise to clear his name? No show of force or power could clear his name, right? If he used his power to silence his accusers, that would only make things worse. Innocent though he was, the more of his executive power he used, the more likely his constituents would think he was in fact corrupt. Slanderous allegations against one's name cannot be defeated by force or by any show of power. The only way to defeat such allegations, to show them to be false by demonstration. In our world, the name of God has been dragged through the mud. This is no accident. This is the strategy of the devil in his rebellion against God. The only way for God to root out evil, then, is by a demonstration of his character of love, showing the devil's allegations to be false. This he does via the cross and beyond. I explain this much further in my book, Theodicy of Love, Cosmic Conflict and the Problem of Evil. For now, there is good news amidst this darkness. First, you can take solace in the fact that this world is not how God intends it to be, and there is a future that he will bring in which there is no evil, no suffering, no pain forevermore. But what's taking so long, you might ask? We're not told all the details. But in the parable of the wheat and the tares, we are told that God does not uproot evil immediately, because doing so would also uproot good. That is, there would be an unacceptable level of collateral damage. God doesn't lack power, nor is he unconcerned, but he is dealing with evil in the only way that will put it down once and for all, by a demonstration of his character. Recall, sheer power will not work. A demonstration of his character manifested supremely in the ultimate demonstration of God's love at the cross. All will be right in the end. In the meantime, take hope in the goodness of God, who subjects himself to scrutiny and even to being crucified in order to save the world from darkness.